Hey there, everybody. Today, we are once again talking All American, and in today's podcast, I would definitely like to talk about what might be next for Spencer and Olivia. And, obviously, we're breaking down what may be ahead for them as a result of the car crash that we saw them get involved in at the end of the last episode. So, for the most part, I would like to go over a few different things. First, I would kind of like to go over what I would like to see in terms of what lies ahead for them, obviously, followed by what I may think would happen in the long run. And then lastly, I'd kind of like to go over the consequences and the benefits of each scenario, assuming that's how they decide to go about things. And then to wrap it up, I'd definitely like to hear what you guys would like to see, what you think is going to happen as a result of this, and how you think it may play out depending on which way they decide to take things. So, in their relationship following all of this going down. So, again, to start it out, we obviously saw what happened at the end of episode 8, and we're all kind of wondering the same thing, what lies ahead for Spencer and Olivia in their relationship following the accident they endured at the end of the last episode. Obviously the major cliffhanger in that episode was us wondering if Spencer will decide to take the blame for her or if Olivia would own up to her mistake. Okay, so just to kind of put things into perspective, we know at this point that Spencer does decide to take the blame for Olivia because, we see in the promo that Billy's yelling at him for covering for her. But, that's another thing, so we'll come back to that at some other time. And, we did kind of talk about that in the last episode with who Billy should be more upset with. But, anyways, kind of getting back to this particular situation, in terms of how this will affect their relationship, I was kind of saying this in the last episode, but I think a possible start to a relationship for them would be set back a good amount if Spencer faces big consequences for taking the blame. I kind of mentioned this. I'm not entirely sure whether or not I could see this happening, but if he were to get kicked off the team, that would definitely put a setback in the relationship. And I say this because, I feel like if something like that were to happen, then, I feel like Spencer would definitely put resolving his problems in front of being with Olivia, because that's why he's going to Crenshaw, is to play football, and obviously he's happy with Olivia, but, I feel like in a way, if he were to get kicked off the team or something like that, then he would know that, he kind of failed what he set out to do in terms of saving the school. So I kind of feel like he would put that in front of being with Olivia, but you never know, because obviously at that point he would be trying to earn Billy's trust back, and, there would just be a lot going on. We'd see so much time go down before we get to see Spencer and Olivia finally get with one another, and I don't think any of us want to see that. So, for sure, that's definitely something to consider. But I feel like now that we kind of know who decides to take the blame for this accident, we can kind of start to think about what we would like to see so that, Spencer and Olivia can come together at least somewhat soon. I'm not sure how many episodes there's going to be in this season, but I feel like however many there are will definitely kind of dictate when they may get together. I've heard some people kind of mentioning that, if there's 16 episodes, like there has been these last couple seasons, maybe we won't see them get together till, say the start of season 4 or, something like that. But I think if this season does turn out to be, 20, 22 episodes or something like that, I think there's a solid chance we'll see them come together before that point. But, like I've said before, I think it's just a matter of time. I just, obviously you hate to see them have to wait like this, and hopefully they get what's best for them, so okay. Now I'll start to kind of get into what I may like to see in terms of what may happen as a result of Spencer taking the blame. And, remember that what I would like to see happen is definitely what I think may be best for them in terms of a happy, healthy relationship once they get past this. So let's get right to it. In my personal opinion, I think that this car crash is obviously it's a barrier in what we thought would be the start of their relationship. But I've said this before, and I personally think that they'll be able to get through this accident because they're stronger than this. And I just don't see them deciding not to go for it as a result of this. So, however, in terms of what I think should be next for them moving forward, I've kind of said this, in comments and all, but I honestly think that they should hold off on getting into anything before they get through this. And, I don't say this because I don't want them together, because I feel like some people might think that, but I just think that in terms of what's best for them moving forward, they shouldn't get into anything now because, I'm honestly kind of skeptical about whether or not they would last. And hey, in my opinion, what would you rather have? A relationship now that doesn't last, or a little bit of waiting for a relationship, that will likely last forever, considering the circumstances. They're obviously in love with one another. And I definitely hope that you guys believe that this should be the case, but if not, just drop a comment down below on what you would like to see go down. And I'm not gonna call you out or anything. Don't worry too much about that. But I'm just curious to hear if you have another opinion, why you think it could be good for them moving forward. So it should definitely be interesting. We'll have to see what happens. So okay, next I would kind of like to go over what I think may actually go down as a result of this. So in this scenario, we're putting all opinions aside, just facing the facts of what may actually happen. So, to start it out, I would just kind of like to say that, I've kind of mentioned this in the last episode, the writers kind of have to know at this point what the fans want to see. So I'm definitely hoping that whatever they decide to do has the fans excited at some point. But, let's get right down to it, I'll just kind of state clearly what I think the real facts might be. So, I honestly feel like I do think the writers will kind of decide to go in the direction that the fans would like to see. And, for me, I'm definitely kind of unsure about how long they'll decide to make us wait, before they decide to give us what we really want to see. And I say this because I think that they want to keep us interested, but, at the same time, they want us to think that they're going to do what we want to see, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens and hope for the best. And, I'm not sure how many episodes, once again, there will be in this season, but like I mentioned, I think that will definitely have an effect on when we see either what we want to see or otherwise. So hopefully it's not otherwise, because that would just be really frustrating given everything that's happened. So, just let me know what you guys think we'll see. Will we get what we've been longing for, or will we see something that either sets them back again or, drifts them apart for good? And, obviously in this situation, you hope it's not the latter, because if so, I most definitely wouldn't be happy. And, I'm curious to hear about what you guys would do if, we saw a situation wherein they're walking away from one another. And, obviously it would be really frustrating, like I mentioned earlier, everything they've been through. I feel like in a way, saying that everything they've been through, just if that were to just drift them apart, it would be devastating, because you felt like they were more than this. And, hopefully that's not the case, though. So we'll just keep hoping, and we'll see if the writers decide to give us the right thing. So, okay. The last thing I would kind of like to talk about in terms of this whole situation are definitely the consequences and the benefits of how Spence and Liv would decide to go about their relationship in the aftermath of this crash. And for starters, I do think that there are benefits and consequences for either way that they decide to go about their relationship. So, let's get right down to it. I'd like to start by going over the consequences and benefits of Spencer and Olivia deciding to get into a relationship right after the accident, before Olivia has quit drinking. And, obviously I don't think that they should really get into this because I don't think it's what's best for them. But, let's just get into it here in case this does happen to be the scenario. So, in terms of the consequences, there definitely are some, and who knows what they may mean if they do happen. So, for starters, I think the one consequence to this could be, with Olivia drinking, I'm honestly not 100% sure if she'd be as willing to do things for Spencer as he is for her. And, I've heard some comments about this kind of around All-American fan pages and everything, but how Olivia doesn't seem to be as in love with Spencer as he is with her. And, I've kind of said this, I really don't think that's the case. I feel like not being as in love isn't really a thing, because I feel like the whole in love theory, it still means that they're both going to be there for one another when they need each other the most. And, I just don't, maybe I do see a scenario or two where I could see Spencer doing something for Liv that she doesn't do for him. But, I think they'd have to be faced with pretty big consequences. And once they get past this, I think they'll be okay. So, it's definitely something to consider. But, I don't really think the whole not as in love is really a thing. So, anyways, I was kind of talking about how more of the consequences as a result of them getting into the relationship right away. And, I mentioned it. I feel like her drinking could be more important than helping Spencer with his problems. And, second of all, I really feel like that Olivia just wouldn't be herself while trying to quit. And, the reason why Spencer is in love with her is because he loves her for who she is. And so I'm hoping you guys are kind of able to keep up with me at the moment. But if not, like I mentioned in the last episode, just give this another listen. So in terms of other consequences that we could see, I think that obviously I'm not sure whether or not they would last given the circumstances. So, the overall, the list of consequences isn't a mile long like you might expect, but, I feel like given the effects of these consequences, it's a lot to consider, because, like I said, there might not be a lot, but the effects that they have could be enough to drift them apart for a lifetime. So it's definitely something to think about. In terms of the benefits of this situation, there aren't a lot I can think of right away, but, there are a couple that I have kind of considered. So, let's kind of dive into those. First, I do think that if they started dating in this process and did happen to last, then, I feel like this would bring them even closer together and, they'd be really strong. So it is something to consider, but, I feel like what they have already is pretty strong, in terms of how much they love one another and, are willing to be there for each other. So, and then kind of second of all, I think this would definitely prove that they're way more made for each other than other people they've been with, like Layla and Asher. But, I feel like that was already pretty clear. But, outside of that, I don't really see many other benefits, which is honestly kind of why I'm more leaning to the other side happening. Because, I believe that's what's best for them, as I mentioned. And, obviously I really hope this is the case. I'm not sure about you guys, but, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, Obviously, you have to really believe that this is what's going to go down, and just wait and see. So next we'll kind of dive into the benefits and consequences of Spencer and Olivia deciding to wait to get into a relationship until after they've resolved their issues. And we'll start with the benefits, and I definitely think that this is something to consider because I think it's the better option in terms of what lies ahead for them. First of all, I think that one of the big benefits of waiting is that we know that's when they'll be able to be themselves, and be there for one another in their relationship, and which is why we as the fans believe that they're made for each other, so second of all, I think another benefit would be that, after all they've been through, they'd be able to have this pride and say, that they did it. They overcame their obstacles, and, they became what we thought they would be. So, I think that kind of speaks for itself, and, that's all the benefits I can think of at this moment, but those benefits are, enough to last them a lifetime, which kind of circles back to the consequences of getting together now. There may not be a mile long list, but I it would the consequences would have been enough for them to see them drift apart at some point, which we obviously wouldn't want to see. So, moving on, in terms of consequences that we could see as a result of them waiting, I feel like I could see some people saying that a consequence would be that we have to wait for them to get together, but it wouldn't be worth it in the long run, let's face it. So I'm kind of hoping that people are able to consider that if they really want Spence and Liv to be together, then they should wait it out, and after that they can drift off into the sunset, but in terms of other consequences we could see, I don't really see any other ones, and that's kind of why I'm more leaning to seeing this happening. So, once again, I'm hoping you're all able to keep up with this, but if not, just give this another listen. Okay, so now we've reached the point in this episode where I'm curious to hear what you guys think should happen, and feel free to just go for it. I'm definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say, and let's just keep it civil. At this point we have